A lot of these speeches. What did you think of this one tonight?
I think it's a very good speech. I think it communicated to the country. I think his close with the young ranger is extraordinarily powerful. And I think most people, if they stayed through the speech, most people will have been impressed. That doesn't mean he's going to move the country dramatically, but I do think you have to say that for this evening, he gave a very solid speech that I think had real power to it.
Gloria Borger, what did you make of it?
I agree. Look, I think it was, in a way, a very traditional State of the Union speech where the president listed things he cares about, his priorities. What struck me was his going on the offense on health care. If the website were not up and working, I guarantee you that the president would not be doing that. But he went on offense on that and said, we don't need 40 more votes, right? We're done with that. Let's just move on. He also said, look, let's just get immigration reform done, kind of nodding to the Republicans. I think this is a president at a difficult time who is trying to jumpstart his presidency. He's low in the polls. He's got a public that's not happy about the way things are going. And he was saying, OK, I'm a leader. I can get things done.
Quick impression from John.
I think his spirits were high, and both that we talked about earlier. President at a low point. How is he up? Does he rise to the moment? Number one. Number two, I thought first half was conciliatory, tax reform, immigration, personally reaching out to Speaker Boehner, common ground. The second half, when he got to minimum wage, equal pay, and then health care, much more drawing the lines for 2014.
David Maraniss wrote the book, Barack Obama, The Story. What did you make? You heard a lot of his speeches.
You could see him from the moment he came in. He had his game face on. And he ended it in a very brilliant and difficult way, which was to both draw the emotion of the individual soldier and at the same time make it a symbolic representation of the struggle that he also has gone through without being self-referential about it. And I think that beyond that, you know, he wasn't strident. He'd never used the words together, income inequality. And yet the essence of much of the speech was about trying to close that gap, something that he really has been trying to do since 1985 when he first started as a community organizer in Chicago on the South Side, and all of these decades since then. I think he reached that point tonight.
Karen Hughes.
It's nice to hear a more optimistic tone. I think that's good for the country and encouraging. People need to hear that. He wrapped himself very well, I think, in the power of the presidency with the very moving tribute to the Army Ranger and the military, even mentioned Olympic gold. That said, I do think a lot of the specific policy proposals in the speech, are things we've heard before. B, involve quite a bit of government spending, which conservatives believe is part of the problem, not part of the solution, and didn't quite feel equal to the big challenges that are facing us, which is massive debt and too much government spending.
Paul Krugman, did you expect to hear what you heard?
It's pretty exciting. You guys having fun so far? All right. There you go. Whose pen is this? Good. Thanks, guys. There we go.
They know what they believe. Obamacare, they've recovered their equilibrium. It's now being touted. This is a success story, and I think it's irreversible. The health care reform has won. Republicans are not even going to really seriously try to knock it back anymore. So this is a guy who's actually, he knows, even though he may lose the Senate, even though he's below the polls, he knows that he's one of the most consequential presidents we've had.
Stephanie Cutter, what do you think?
Well, I agree with a lot of what everybody said. I think this was a very good speech for the president. I think in terms of the ideas that he laid out, they're real, achievable, concrete things that we can do to strengthen the middle class and help people get into the middle class. Just because he's mentioned them before doesn't mean we shouldn't get them done. Congress should act. I think the president also demonstrated that he's serious about getting something done.
Alex Castellanos, the first we've heard from you tonight.
Well, I think I've said before that I think a speech by Barack Obama is a lot like sex. The worst there ever was is still excellent. And I thought he gave a very competent performance tonight. You know, one of the things working with candidates and political leaders is when they're in a weak political position, sometimes they confuse volume and loudness with strength. And that's what I felt the first half of the speech, that he was willing himself to demonstrate strength and confidence. But he did it with optimism, and that is the rare gift that a president has. A president is the only guy in that top job who can say, we're going to someplace better, follow me. I think it's going to help him. It's going to help the Democrats. The policy was I thought Karen was dead right, too small for the moment.
We are awaiting the GOP response. I should point out, was it less sort of throwing down the gauntlet to Republicans than some had thought? Maybe?
I think we heard a lot of people saying beforehand he would be defiant, and it wasn't defiant. It was he drew lines, but he attempted to say, hey, let's try to work together. We should all be mad at ourselves that this town has been so dysfunctional. And I think beginning with the stories of individual citizens doing things to change their lives was sort of a lesson to Washington, saying, if the American people can do it at tough times, find ways to make their lives better, why can't we get some things done? I think that was a smart way to start.
I think it was
taking not just tonight in the Republican response, but the next few days, if Republicans have any brains at all, they'll respond the same way.
Well, I think what he was doing was taking the side of the American public in all of this, essentially saying, okay, Congress didn't get anything done, maybe things didn't go so well on Obamacare, but okay, now we just have to move on.
Well, what would House Republicans actually deliver on from this speech?
Well, I think he did sort of open the door on immigration, for example.
And there's agreement in other areas, lowering corporate tax rates.
Corporate tax rates was another area.
Newt, did anything jump out?
Let me just point out, speeches are terrific. And Clinton came in and sold health care, and it lasted 4 days. And then it disintegrated in 1993, 94. The problem this president has is that this morning, Senator Tom Coburn announced he had lost his cancer doctor under the Obamacare bill.
Yeah.
Now, that kind of stuff,
it's a totally misleading story, by the way.
Of course it is, Paul.
Nobody has ever found that their private insurer has told them that the doctor they were using is no longer in network.
I know it's hard for you to hear this.
It's a garbage story. It really is.
Whether Newt is right or not about
that. But the point is, I think this is actually critical. Because the point is, Clinton talked health care and didn't happen. Obama talked health care and it did happen. And it's not going to be reversed. And that's the important news here. He knows he's got it. Yeah. Republicans know he's got it.
I'm glad you live in that world.
Respond, then we gotta go.
In the country at large, day after day after day, people learning they have lost their insurance, people learning what the size of the cost of the new program is, people learning they can't go to their favorite hospital, they can't go to their favorite doctor. The president just peaked tonight.
Enjoy your fantasy.
And they don't want to repeal it.
Enjoy your fantasy. It's not going to happen.
Be very careful.
The American people do not want to repeal the president's health care law. Millions of people are already benefiting from it.
That's not true.
And Republicans are in the difficult position of taking something away from people if they try to repeal it. Yeah. So the president's message tonight was, let's move on.
Let's be clear about where the American people are on Obamacare. The American people don't want to repeal Obamacare because there is no alternative. They're in a locked room with something they don't like. If Republicans can come up with an alternative out of that room, they'd repeal it.
We're waiting the GOP response. We're going to talk about this. We got a lot of time ahead. Let's go back to Wolf.